We should go.
We're live.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and call this special called meeting of the Abington Historic Preservation Review Board to order. So roll call.
Mr. Boyd,
Here.
Mr. Owens,
Here.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Here.
Mrs. White, and Mr. Giesler.
Here. All right, certificate of appropriateness for the Summers Building. I don't know if, we don't have a staff summary.
We don't really have a summary,
No, we
but
all know where we
the
are.
only thing that Gabe wanted to, you wanted to just say one thing about that. Last time we talked about whether it was stucco on the exterior, and so it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Just for the
We got you there
record.
just saying.
So Gabriel Christopher, town planner. So in the previous meeting, it was said that the shaft was stuccoed. It's actually either brick or brick veneer. I was told by Rick Statzer, a building official, that it's actually a brick veneer. So possibly attaching the vent to that could be troublesome, because usually veneers aren't structurally sound to hold maybe that type of weight. So it could be a problem if it is just a veneer and not stucco. So just to bring that to your attention.
Okay, thank you. All right, Nathan.
I'll go ahead and address that.
Yeah.
So it is a brick veneer stucco. So it's basically stucco that's made to look like a brick veneer. This would be connected to the steel structure that's beneath the stucco. So it would be, and then it would also be partially connected to the existing masonry wall. And we have, we've had Matt Bundy look at kind of how we might connect that, and it would be reviewed by him to make sure it was structurally sound.
So the structural part shouldn't be a problem.
Correct.
Okay, either way.
Either way, yeah.
So at our last meeting, I guess we really were talking about two options. One would be to widen the existing dumbwaiter shaft by adding 30 square inches to, I guess, the north side, which will partially block one set of the windows going up.
Correct.
Or the other option would be to actually have the 22-inch diameter exhaust pipe attached to the current dumbwaiter shaft on the exterior and then painted to match. So, and I think we held this over for a week in order to take a look at the renderings you provided to us, and then also I think were you going to check with David Dalton to see if he had any preference, or I'm not sure if we were going to do that or not.
So what sort of the approach that we are bound to is obviously we have to satisfy the requirements of the HPRB, but do it in a way that is also as courteous to our neighbor as possible. We, due to the way his future addition will be laid out, it's very important that whatever addition we do or whatever structure is built is on the Court Street side of the
Gotcha.
building. And so I think to a certain extent we are wanting the feedback from the HPRB to determine whether that should be enclosed in a similar enclosure as what's already there, or leave the pipe exposed.
So you all don't have a preference either way, or, I mean, if you do,
Well,
that's fine.
Right. No, I mean, we kind of, this is, you know, we want to make sure that that the HPRB is satisfied ultimately with what we do, and also I think what was paramount for Mr. Dalton is that it be on the Court Street side. I think he had indicated that he would like it to, basically, he doesn't want to be staring at a pipe. And so however we can achieve that is what we want to do. And so, we did want to see what the opinion of the HPRB is in terms of whether the HPRB feels like it would be best to enclose it or leave it exposed.
And did you determine that the fresh air return is not an issue?
Right, I think the fresh air return would not go up that far. So it would draw in fresh air at a lower level than the exhaust vent, which is what we have drawn in here.
So is it fair to say that if you go with the expanding the shaft, the fresh air will have to go all the way up and will be enclosed in?
No,
either way it won't?
My understanding is that the fresh air would be not at ground level, but it would be close to ground level, and that would come up directly out of where the back of the hood is, and then there would be an entirely different pipe that would be, where the exhaust vent would be at a different location, which is what's shown here. The exhaust is right next to the dumbwaiter shaft, whereas the fresh air vent would be down lower.
And I know that we're primarily concerned with the exterior of how inconspicuous this is and how it bends into the historic district, that kind of thing. But those windows that the expanded shaft is going to cover on the top floor there, is that part of the events venue space?
On the very top floor?
Well, I'm not talking about the penthouse.
window floor.
Yes, that's correct. And so it won't be, in whatever direction we end up going, whether it be an enclosed or just the exposed pipe, it won't be directly against the window. There will be about a space of probably about a foot if we enclose it, and there will be a space of probably 2 feet if we don't enclose it in front of the window. So there's a gap. It won't be pressed directly against the building. There'll be a gap between the window and the pipe.
But it would be an
But it would be
8-inch difference in terms of.
yeah 8 to 12 inch difference.
In
Probably
terms of
12
wattage.
inch. Right, 12-inch difference. I think, it's a little bit of, what do you prioritize? Enclosing it will increase the size of it visually, leaving it, but it will also make it blend in with the rest of the shaft. Leaving it exposed will make it visually, it's smaller, but it also won't blend in as much with the rest of the shaft. So, I think it's, there's not necessarily a right answer.
Yeah, I see that. So the curve there, that's because the actual hood is going to be on the top of the penthouse structure?
Right, so that curves back so that the actual terminus of the exhaust will be accessible for cleaning. So that's why it doesn't go straight up. It curves back onto the rooftop, the very top of the roof of the roof there. That way you can clean it and do any maintenance that you need to do.
But the fan is down at the hood level in the kitchen. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
This is just a discharge.
This is the discharge.
Is there like a round something? At
Yeah,
the-
there's a
The hood?
louver. Yeah, I mean it's right. It's protected so that water can't get into
Gotcha.
it. But I'm not sure exactly what that the very end of it would look like. It wouldn't be within view though.
Right.
It's kind of set back.
And if you go with the exhaust pipe like you're showing there, then it would be, you would basically be pulling it as far away from the building, I guess, as possible for, I guess, access for light and visibility and that kind of thing.
Yeah. It would be, what you see is pretty close to what you would get.
Betsy texted me that she's on her way. She had forgotten. Does anyone else have any questions or observations?
I still favor the pipe. Because I think if you're prioritizing, I think the least blocking of the windows, to me, is the most important. Question about the addition that the owner's planning there. Would he not have any, would the pipe or expanded shaft not be visible at all from his expansion if it's on the Court Street side?
You know, I can't speak, you know, with a lot of authority on that because I don't know all the details of that addition. From our conversations, the pipe would be, I think, if it were exposed and left on the Court Street side, then you could potentially see it from a very particular angle from the courtyard. But from what I understand is that it would not be kind of right in your face. Whereas if it were on the other side, it would be front and center right, kind of very visible from their back porch. So I think the most important thing in terms of being a good neighbor is keeping it on the Court Street side. From there, I think, you know, Dave had expressed, I think, a preference for enclosing it, but I think obviously he understands that, you know, we're also bound to the overview of the HPRB. And so I think the most important thing is for it to not be, you know, very, very prominent from his outdoor sitting area. Again, I don't want to speak for Mr. Dalton, you know, we're trying to balance kind of both.
Right. I agree with Peyton. I think just the smaller exhaust pipe painted to match would be less conspicuous, primarily because it doesn't then make that dumbwaiter shaft so large, and it doesn't obscure so much of that window that then you have asymmetrical windows, which would kind of be, I think, a little bit jarring.
What's the difference in your time to get? Is there a significant difference?
Obviously, I mean, leaving it exposed will be quicker, but I don't want that to be the primary focus. You know, we want to ultimately deliver something that Mr. Dalton is happy with and that the town and the HPRB is happy with. But, I mean, obviously, leaving it exposed would be easier from an operational perspective.
Just for
I
your-
apologize, I totally apologize. Is that the picture that you've put as what it would look like as the pipe?
Right, if it were exposed. It's kind of a zoomed in view.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not exactly what you would see from the street. It would be a little bit, you know.
So we walked all around it the other day, so.
I just came by today and looked up there, and
Mhm.
it's not something that most people can be looking at
Yeah.
from Court Street,
Right.
whatever's there.
Right.
That was my question, is either way, who's gonna really see it? Because, you know, when I went over there and kind of stood in the alley, you don't notice those windows.
Plum Alley is very difficult to see. The
Yeah.
one time you see it is if you were on foot walking up Court Street.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was driving and I stopped in the middle of the road and could see it, but
Yeah.
if you're driving and not stopping.
Yeah.
Right, if you're not, right, if you're driving slowly or stop and look up,
Yeah.
you would see
If
it.
you're
or
walking, you can see it.
What's in the two On those two
Yeah, right
floors where
there.
the windows are gonna be partially, the view's gonna be partially blocked, what's going on in those
It will be a
rooms?
event space, a banquet room.
On the third floor?
On the third floor.
And then at the one below, there's also a window?
Office.
And then the bar, I guess, on the penthouse, right?
Correct.
Well, it doesn't go up that far though, right?
It does. It would go
Oh,
in
it
front
does.
of the bar window.
Okay.
The bar shelving, you know, again, you'll have bottles, so that's not.
Well, if you go back to that one picture, it didn't even look like there was a window at that point. Maybe I didn't.
If you show the drawing, you can see the windows
Oh, okay.
better.
Oh, on
It
the
really-
drawing?
really shows.
Yeah, that shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So I mean,
okay.
so the shaft would really cover one
Part of
set
a
of
window.
windows on the event space, and the same for the, behind the bar.
Are those visible from Court Street, those windows?
Those are not visible at all.
Are they visible at any place on?
Those are visible briefly on Plum Alley.
When that addition is built, is that gonna be a two-story, you know?
I believe so.
We'll probably block it further.
Yeah.
I think the brick looks nicer.
But it's not brick.
Or the brick veneer,
It's
but,
not even brick veneer.
oh,
It's stucco with a stamp in it, I guess.
Right.
To make sort of
It's-
a,
Right.
I mean,
Did you express a preference? You all gonna go back and talk about it?
I mean, our preference is whatever the HPRB.
that's not the right answer.
I think David leaned towards.
Diplomatic.
the
Yeah.
exterior versus the-
I think, yeah, I
David
think-
Dalton.
I think he was leaning toward, I think he made it very clear he wanted it on the Court Street side, and I
Yeah.
think he wanted it boxed in.
Was he told the option of not boxing it in?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To me, as far as, since we really can't see the windows other than that one top window, to me, it would be less conspicuous if it was boxed in, from my perspective. To me, it would blend in as the dumb layer looks like it's just another part of a chimney versus the pipe. And I understand what their argument is as far as trying to, not to block the windows, but the windows are going to be partially blocked anyway. Plus, you can't see them from Court Street other than the very top window. So if it, for me, I would rather it look like it was a chimney versus a pipe.
my concern is not from the exterior, it's from what it would be like inside. Even though,
But that's not our,
I know it's not, but it's a reality.
I mean, we don't control interiors, we don't control what people do with the interior of their buildings, but I think we can take into consideration the effect of exterior alterations on how it affects the interior of the building when it's a close call like this.
either way, you're gonna see a pipe or
Right, so it's a matter of degree.
Mhm. But, and to me, the overriding issue is, of course, as inconspicuous as it can be. I mean, which one of those is the most inconspicuous and less obvious
Right.
to the
Well,
building?
Can I ask Betsy a question, because
Mhm.
she's an expert on sort of this age of building, but
I wanna
is
say
it
that.
typical to see a pipe on the outside of a
Well, I was
building?
just gonna say this, I don't know if this is entirely relevant, but you know, we're full of buildings whose interiors have exposed radiator pipes right through the living rooms. We all have lived with it for a long time, that's just what it is. I mean, I think there's a pipe coming down the back of that building right there. We have pipes outside buildings, don't we? I mean, I don't
I
think.
couldn't think of any,
I
that's
don't
why I
think
asked.
I'm wrong about that. I mean, we do have.
That size of a pipe?
No, we probably haven't seen that.
Because that, to me, on such a historically significant
Uh-huh.
building, do
Yeah.
we want a big pipe on the outside of it?
Well,
Or-
definitely even in historic areas in larger cities, you see that all over the place because they just have to
But big,
do that.
large pipes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it goes along with the, kind of the utilitarian aspect of what we're looking at there, the vent and the pipe for the vent.
I
And
mean-
it seems to me that ultimately you would stop seeing it if it's painted out. And where you had that picture, that's why I asked if that was a depiction, so you have it right up against shaft, don't you?
Mhm.
It's not like, it's not.
No, I mean, it'll be right, smacked out against it.
Right, so it almost, to me, that looks less conspicuous, like just kind of like a little bump out, than a whole nother shaft addition. I hate to be wishy-washy.
You know, if you, I mean.
But there's not with something like this, there's no.
I mean, I think we're trying
straightforward
very
answer.
hard to do what's right for that
Right.
building, very
Mhm.
much so.
You know,
Yeah.
if you look across the street at the courthouse, there, at the back of the existing courthouse, there is an air conditioning unit that's the size of a large dump truck that is just in the parking lot there that probably, you'll drive by now and see it that I've said it, but it's the kind of thing that you kind of, your eye doesn't catch these
It's the nature of it.
mechanical.
It's sort of the nature
Yeah,
of.
go on
his-
back, now turn to the left there.
It's the nature of historic.
See that? That's across the street. I'm not saying that that's good to have that, but I'm just saying, and see all the pipes at the corner of the courthouse going up, I mean, those things exist.
Those pipes are pretty relevant to what we're talking about, and they're painted the color of the building. Yeah,
I mean, these things do
That's
exist
electrical
already.
conduit.
or whatever they are.
Well, I mean, the pipes.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not advocating for more of that, but it does exist and it does occur in historic areas.
And the reason is because when that was originally built, there was no way they could have foreseen the need for utilities.
Internet,
And
yeah.
so that is, yeah.
Not to mention everything else.
I mean, I do think the priority, in my opinion, should be what will over time fade away from noticing it and have less impact on the building.
There's also, I think I've seen this as I've walked and driven around, you have mechanical equipment on the roof that's visible
Mhm.
from certain aspects.
Mhm.
To me, and I mean, I know that there's not particularly any way to avoid that, but that's, to me, more noticeable than this pipe would be.
You know, unfortunately, there's nothing in our guidelines that addresses this. So it's really whatever we decide tonight, and I'm okay either way, personally. You know, I can live with either one of them.
Well, I mean, what we're living with is just trying to be inconspicuous. That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
ordinance
And it's
itself.
gonna, it will set a precedence for the future as far as when people are redoing some of these other old buildings on what will be allowed. Because they'll use this as an example.
Well, hopefully what will come out of it is that it's the least conspicuous, the lesser of the two additions. The lesser of the two conspicuousnesses of the addition. Whatever I was trying to say.
I think every restaurant in the historic district has a big fire-protected hood over their cooking equipment with a pipe, but this is probably the only one which has to go up 4 stories.
It's a little bit of a unique situation. I don't think that the HPRB will really come across another instance where you have a kitchen in a cellar and a restaurant on a rooftop. There's not another.
I don't know, everybody might
You never
like this a
know.
whole
It might
lot,
catch
right?
on.
Yeah,
And-
starting a
and,
trend.
and, you know.
I mean, the tavern has the exact same thing, and I mean, it's visible between the buildings, but I mean, you know, that's the oldest building in town, and it has, I mean, it's barely visible between, if you're really looking for it, but, you know, these things do get fitted into historic building. I don't know if you can see it. I guess you have to be, yeah, it's on the other side of the tavern. You're right, it's through that little alley there, but I don't know that you can see it. It's not
I mean, it
well
is
hidden.
important that, and it's very good that you're doing this, you're trying to protect the neighbor,
Mhm.
be a good neighbor to
Yeah.
the neighbor, and that's another thing that is in our decision-making is the neighborhood itself. And you say he has expressed a firm preference for that?
A preference, yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Well, does anyone have a motion?
I move that we approve approve the exposed pipe painted out to match the color of the stucco.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Nay.
Mrs. White,
Aye.
and Mr. Geisler.
All right. All right.
Cross our fingers we did the right thing.
Right. That's, yeah. So we'll, you know,
Can I ask you where you're gonna put your dumpster? Just curious, since I'm
in the parking lot.
in the parking lot, where you're keeping your
We're-
building supplies?
Yes, yeah. So we'll have an
Yeah.
enclosed dumpster.
All right.
Right?
Thank
Okay.
you very much. Thanks for all the work on that.
Get her done.
Yeah, we're excited, excited to have everybody, come by on the 18th.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion? Any matters not on the agenda? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Boyd, Mr. Owens, Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye.
and Mr. Geisler.
Aye. All right.
So we'll see.